You just can't find a skate park like this anymore. There's none left.
It was a meeting ground of the most influential people in the skateboarding world today.
Everything's massive. Walk out the door and it's just like boom.
It was like the biggest, gnarliest park, so we were in heaven.
There's probably more skin laid into that concrete than anywhere else, no question about it.
There was power centers in every zone of Florida, but none of those other areas had the place like Kona.
If you surfed, you skateboarded. So we were all surf-style skateboarders, and it was all about speed. We'd bike around and look for anything that resembled a wave.
I was 8.5 years old then. We catamaran down the street. You had the nose wheelie skids down the street.
We had our little crew that fed off each other, and we would travel in a pack, push each other, go to parks.
I grew up skating with Buck and Jimmy Plumer and Mitch and Mike Kaufman and the whole gang, the whole Rat Town gang.
We grocery shopped right across the street from here, so you could see Kona getting built.
Now Kona's open, and there's no reason to go anywhere else.
It was on. My parents would bring me here, you'd spend the day here, they give you a couple bucks, and I spent years here after that.
And a lot of the guys from around the East Coast are showing up, looking at the size of the park and going, holy shit, I don't want nothing to do with that. They look at the bowl and they're like, what?
My dad took me out to the bowl and I put my board on the ledge and I got scared, and I'd never been here before and never skated anything like this before. And he said, well, are you gonna drop in? I said, no, Dad, I'm scared. He said, well, then get your stuff, let's go home. And I dropped in and I spent the rest of the day here.
We love the park. I mean, we're freaking.
Skating these banks, it's a different kind of skating.
You actually feel like you're flowing and you're like riding waves.
It's got a perfect giant half pipe. It's got a great pool. So you got flats, you got banks, you got the snake run for slalom. We were in heaven.
You know, create these little basin type bowl things where you can kind of surf around and do slides and little freestyle routines in the bottom.
The park was open for about 8 weeks, and we finally talked the owners into building a vertical. We needed vert, there was no vert in here. So they put the tombstone up, and we sat right here at the top of this bowl right there and waited for the cement to dry. And we're just frothing, and then they're going, not yet, not yet. And they finally said, okay, it's dry enough. And we just started, going. You've got everything a skate park should have, and it's big and fast, and it'll accommodate a lot of people, and it's also got a lot of ground for spectators. It's the ultimate place to have a contest.
We're at the park where it's the first annual U.S. Open Skateboard Championship. And I believe it's the first time we've had any real challenge from the East Coast and the West Coast meeting head on.
They had a couple big pro events here. They had the U.S. Open in 1978. They had another pro event in '77 as well. All the guys from the West Coast came out to the East Coast for the very first time because of Kona.
And that's when I got to meet my heroes from the skateboard magazines. Shogo Kubo, Tony Alva, Jay Adams, Martinez, all the guys that, we only saw in pictures. I remember watching their lines and trying to copy their moves and learn the tricks they were doing.
Back in those days, you could not pop a video into your video player. People didn't even have VHS players back then, much less VHS tapes, DVDs. So you couldn't really sit around watching other people skate, let's say, the top California guys or whatever. So we were completely isolated unless we jumped on an airplane and flew to California.
So all the big names of the day came on out, in the first couple of years for some events, and but still the park kind of went under and sat here dormant for a bit.
I remember when they closed it down and we were all heartbroken. They came out here with dump loads of dirt and filled it up.
Big recession, worldwide recession. Skateboarding just ate it pretty bad. You could count the skateboard companies that existed on 2 hands.
My parents took the skate park over in 1979. I looked at the skate park as kind of a cool way to have a family business and for a way to bring the family together, and he thought it'd be kind of fun to do for a couple of years, and never would have guessed we'd have been here so much later,
Mr. Ramus, Marty's dad, when he bought it, he just turned it around and it became such a family-friendly place. Everybody's parents were out here supporting them.
You'd go into the pro shop here and there'd be like 100 Day-Glo Pro-Tech helmets hanging from the ceiling, and you're just going, whoa, and you look up on the wall, 50 billion decks, buckets full of trucks. Oh, this is just one kind of truck, full, bulging. Here's another big barrel full of different kind of trucks. In the middle of recession, when skate shops, they were either out of business or they barely had any inventory, Mr. Ramos was in here just packing the place full of stuff, and people were coming in and they were just buying, and it was a thriving little thing going on here when the rest of the sport was dead. The whole Ramos family is just worshipped by any Florida skater that has any amount of knowledge whatsoever. Just loves this family, loves this park. And it's where we all grew up. I live 2.5, 3 hours from here. Some of my best memories ever are at this park. Right in the middle of the contest, Mitch goes up on the top of the tombstone, and he's standing up there, and we're just going, whoa, what's he doing?
I knew if I was gonna win, I needed to pull, you know, a rabbit out of a hat. I looked down, and I dropped, and I ate it. Just landed in a heap at the bottom.
And he ate shit, and he goes right back up again, and we're starting to lose it. No one had ever done that. We'd never seen it before.
Hey, we can, set the tail of our board out there over this crazy vertical drop. Somehow you can stick to the wall and make it. And at the time, dude, no one ever had thought that that was even possible.